In a world where celebrity visits often feel scripted and distant, something extraordinary happens when genuine compassion meets royal duty. Picture this: a hospital ward where children fight battles far beyond their years, where worried parents hold on to hope with trembling hands, and where medical heroes work tirelessly to heal little hearts and minds. Now imagine a Duchess walking through those doors, not with cameras rolling for publicity, but with a mother's heart beating in rhythm with every child's struggle. What happens when royalty strips away the formality and sits on the floor to color with a 6-year-old? When a future queen gets her hands messy with finger paints and doesn't worry about her designer dress? When genuine laughter echoes through hospital corridors that usually hear only whispered prayers and medical equipment? This is not just another royal engagement marked in an official diary. This is the story of Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, and a day that reminded everyone present why sometimes the most powerful medicine doesn't come from a prescription bottle, but from human connection, authentic care, and the simple act of seeing each child, not as a patient, but as a whole person deserving of joy, dignity, and hope. The children at Evelina Children's Hospital were about to discover that fairy tales do exist, and sometimes they walk through hospital doors wearing elegant heels and carrying hearts full of genuine love for those who need it most. The morning sun cast long shadows across the modern glass facade of Evelina London Children's Hospital, a beacon of hope nestled within the bustling Guy's and St. Thomas's NHS Foundation Trust. Inside these walls, stories of courage unfold daily, where tiny warriors in colourful hospital gowns fight battles that would challenge the strongest adults. Today, however, there was an unusual buzz of anticipation threading through the corridors, a sense that something special was about to happen. Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, had specifically requested this visit, not as part of a mandated royal tour, but from a deeply personal place of understanding. As a mother of 3 young children herself, she had experienced those moments of helplessness when a child falls ill, the desperate wish to take away their pain and make everything better. This connection to parenthood had shaped much of her charitable work, drawing her repeatedly to causes that supported children's well-being, mental health, and family support systems. The Duchess had been patron of several children's charities for years, but Evelina Children's Hospital held a special place in her heart. She had visited before, each time leaving with renewed appreciation for the incredible work being done within these walls. The hospital, one of the UK's leading children's hospitals, treated some of the most complex and challenging cases, offering hope to families when other options had been exhausted. Sarah Matthews, the hospital's chief paediatrician, had worked closely with the royal household to plan this visit. Unlike formal state occasions, this was designed to be intimate and meaningful, focusing entirely on the children and families rather than media coverage or ceremonial protocols. The Duchess had made it clear that she wanted to spend real time with the young patients, to engage with them on their level, and to bring some brightness to what could often be frightening and overwhelming experiences. The preparation had been meticulous, but not in the way one might expect for a royal visit. Instead of focusing on security barriers and formal presentations, the staff had worked to create an environment where natural interactions could flourish. Child life specialists had briefed the Duchess on age-appropriate activities, the children's current interests, and ways to communicate effectively with young patients who might be feeling vulnerable or scared. 8-year-old Emma Thompson lay in her hospital bed in the cardiac unit, her auburn curls spread across the pillow like a halo. She had been born with a complex heart condition that required multiple surgeries throughout her young life. Despite the challenges she faced, Emma's spirit remained unbroken, her smile capable of lighting up the darkest corners of the ward. Her mother, Janet, sat beside her, reading from a well-worn copy of A Princess Story, Emma's current favourite. Emma had heard the nurses whispering about a special visitor coming that day. In her 8-year-old imagination, she wondered if it might be one of the therapy dogs she loved so much, or perhaps a children's entertainer. The possibility that an actual Duchess might walk through her door seemed as fantastical as the fairy tales her mother read to her each night. Down the hall in the oncology ward, 10-year-old Marcus Johnson was carefully working on a painting during art therapy. His bald head, a result of chemotherapy treatments, was covered with a colourful bandana featuring superheroes. Marcus had been fighting leukemia for 8 months, showing a courage and resilience that amazed everyone who met him. His artwork had become his way of expressing feelings he couldn't always put into words, and his paintings now decorated not only his room, but several common areas throughout the ward. Marcus's father, David, watched his son paint with a mixture of pride and heartbreak. The family had been living at the hospital for weeks during intensive treatment, and David had seen his son endure more than any child should ever have to face. Yet Marcus continued to find joy in small things. his artwork being a testament to his unbreakable spirit. The preparation for the Duchess's visit had involved the entire hospital community. Nurses had worked extra shifts to ensure everything ran smoothly, while still maintaining the high standard of care the hospital was known for. The housekeeping staff had made sure every surface gleamed, not for show, but because they wanted their workplace to reflect the pride they felt in their mission. Dr. Rachel Williams, head of the Children's Mental Health Unit, had particular hopes for this visit. She had seen firsthand how positive interactions with caring adults could impact a child's healing process. The psychological benefits of feeling valued, remembered, and cared for by someone from outside their immediate medical circle could be immeasurable. For children who had been in hospital for extended periods, visits like this helped them remember that there was a world beyond these walls that cared about them. The security arrangements were present but subtle, designed to ensure safety without creating an atmosphere of formality that might inhibit natural interactions. The Royal Protection Officers had worked closely with hospital security to create protocols that would be invisible to the children, allowing them to experience the visit without feeling intimidated or overwhelmed. Catherine had arrived that morning at Kensington Palace with careful consideration for every aspect of her appearance. She chose a soft blue dress, elegant but not overly formal, in a colour that would be calming and approachable for young children. Her jewellery was minimal, avoiding anything that might seem ostentatious in a hospital setting where families were dealing with serious financial and emotional pressures. Her hair was styled simply, and she carried a small handbag containing some personal items she had brought specifically for this visit. The drive to the hospital gave her time to review the briefing materials one final time. She had studied information about each child she would meet, learning about their conditions, their interests, their families, and their treatment journeys. This wasn't casual reading for her. She understood that for these children and their families, this visit might be one of the most memorable experiences of their hospital stay, and she wanted to make it as meaningful as possible. As her car approached the hospital, Catherine could see a small crowd of staff members gathered near the entrance, their faces reflecting excitement and pride in their workplace. She knew that while the focus of her visit was the children, these dedicated professionals were the real heroes of this story, working tirelessly day after day to provide hope and healing to some of society's most vulnerable members. The moment her car pulled into the hospital grounds, a wave of anticipation rippled through the building. In rooms throughout the hospital, children pressed their faces to windows, trying to catch a glimpse of the Duchess arriving. For many of them, this was their first encounter with royalty, and the excitement was palpable. Catherine stepped out of her vehicle with the grace that had become her trademark, but also with the evident enthusiasm of someone genuinely excited about the hours ahead. She paused for a moment to acknowledge the staff members who had gathered to welcome her, taking time to shake hands and express her appreciation for their dedication to the children in their care. Dr. Matthews approached with a warm smile, extending her hand in greeting. As she began to outline the planned route through the hospital, Catherine listened intently, asking questions about specific children and their circumstances. Her genuine interest was evident in every response, demonstrating that this was far more than a ceremonial obligation for her. The first stop would be the cardiac unit, where Emma Thompson waited with barely contained excitement. As they walked through the corridors, Catherine noticed the artwork covering the walls, the bright colours and cheerful designs clearly created by young patients. She paused frequently to examine specific pieces, asking about the young artists who had created them. The atmosphere in the hospital had transformed from the usual clinical efficiency to something warmer and more celebratory. Yet, underneath the excitement, the serious work of healing continued. Nurses still monitored medications, doctors still made their rounds, and the complex machinery that sustained life still hummed quietly in the background. As they approached Emma's room, Catherine could hear the sound of gentle laughter drifting into the hallway. She paused for a moment outside the door, taking a deep breath and preparing herself for the important work ahead. This wasn't about her, she reminded herself. This was about bringing joy, comfort, and a sense of connection to children who needed to know that their struggles mattered to the world beyond these walls. Dr. Matthews knocked gently on Emma's door before opening it slowly. Inside, mother and daughter looked up from their storybook with expressions of wonder and anticipation. Catherine entered with a gentle smile, and in that moment, the real magic of the day began to unfold. Emma's eyes widened to the size of dinner plates as Catherine entered her room. The 8-year-old had imagined this moment countless times since hearing about the special visitor, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of meeting an actual Duchess. Catherine's warm smile immediately put the young girl at ease, and she found herself smiling back despite the tubes and wires connected to her small body. "Hello, Emma," Catherine said softly, approaching the bed with the natural ease of someone who had spent considerable time around children. "I hear you're quite the artist. Would you mind showing me some of your beautiful drawings?" Emma's face lit up with pride as she reached for a folder on her bedside table, her hands trembling slightly with excitement rather than weakness. Inside were dozens of drawings she had created during her many hospital stays. Pictures of rainbows, flowers, and fantastical creatures filled the pages, each one bursting with color and imagination that seemed to defy the sterile hospital environment. Catherine pulled up a chair beside Emma's bed, genuinely studying each artwork, with the attention she might give to masterpieces in a gallery. "This butterfly is absolutely magnificent," she remarked, pointing to a drawing where purple and gold wings seemed to dance across the page. "What inspired you to give it such beautiful colors?" Emma's shyness began to melt away as she explained her artistic choices. "Butterflies can fly anywhere they want," she said with the profound wisdom that sometimes emerges from young children facing difficult circumstances. "I like to think about flying to different places when I'm stuck in bed." Janet Thompson watched this interaction with tears threatening to spill from her eyes. As a mother, she had witnessed countless medical professionals treat her daughter with clinical efficiency, but there was something different about watching someone engage with Emma simply as a person, not as a patient with a complex medical history. Catherine noticed Janet's emotional response and included her in the conversation naturally. "You must be so proud of Emma's artistic talent," she said, acknowledging the role parents play in nurturing their children's gifts, even during the most challenging times. "How do you encourage her creativity when you're dealing with everything else?" This simple question opened a floodgate of conversation. Janet found herself sharing not just the practical aspects of Emma's care, but the emotional journey their family had traveled. She spoke about the guilt she felt when Emma missed school for treatments, the financial pressures of extended hospital stays, and the overwhelming love she felt for her brave little girl. Catherine listened with the complete attention that made people feel heard and valued. She asked thoughtful questions and shared her own experiences as a mother, creating a connection that transcended royal protocol. When Emma mentioned missing her friends at school, Catherine suggested they could send some of her artwork to her classmates, helping to maintain those important connections. The conversation was interrupted by a gentle knock on the door. A nurse entered to check Emma's vital signs, a routine that happened multiple times throughout the day. Catherine stepped back to allow the medical professional to work, but she didn't leave the room. Instead, she engaged the nurse in conversation, learning about her background and expressing genuine appreciation for her dedication. Emma watched this interaction with fascination. She had never seen a grown-up ask her nurse about her life outside the hospital, and it made her see the medical staff who cared for her in a new light. The nurse, initially nervous about performing routine tasks in front of royalty, found herself relaxing under Catherine's genuine interest and respect. When the medical check was complete, Catherine returned to Emma's bedside with a special surprise. From her small handbag, she pulled out a beautiful set of watercolor pencils and high-quality paper. "I thought you might like to try something new with your art," she said, presenting the gift with the same care she might use for a state present. Emma's gasp of delight filled the room. These weren't the basic art supplies typically available in the hospital's activity programs. These were professional quality materials that opened up new possibilities for creative expression. Catherine sat down beside the bed again and suggested they create a collaborative artwork together. The next hour passed like minutes as Duchess and patient worked side by side on a painting depicting a garden full of butterflies. Catherine's artistic skills were modest, but her enthusiasm was infectious. She asked Emma for advice on color choices and technique, naturally placing the young girl in the role of teacher rather than patient. As they painted, Emma shared stories about her dreams and aspirations. She wanted to become a children's book illustrator when she grew up, creating stories that would help other children feel brave when they were scared. Catherine encouraged this dream, discussing the importance of art in healing and the special perspective Emma would bring to such work because of her own experiences. The conversation flowed naturally to include Janet, who found herself sharing family traditions, and Emma's achievements outside of her medical journey. Catherine learned about Emma's love of reading, her skill at chess, and her remarkable memory for details in stories. She began to see Emma not as a sick child, but as a complete person with talents, dreams, and a bright personality that happened to include some health challenges. When it came time to move on to visit other patients, Catherine made sure Emma understood that their interaction had been special to her as well. She promised to remember their artwork collaboration and asked if Emma would continue creating and perhaps send some pictures to show how she progressed with the new materials. The goodbye was gentle but meaningful. Catherine hugged Emma carefully, mindful of her medical equipment. and whispered something private that made the young girl giggle with delight. As she left the room, Catherine carried with her a small drawing Emma had insisted she take, a picture of two friends painting together under a rainbow. Walking down the corridor toward the oncology ward, Catherine reflected on what she had just experienced. Emma's courage and creativity in the face of serious health challenges had reminded her why these visits were so important. It wasn't about bringing royal glamour to the hospital. It was about creating moments of human connection that reminded everyone involved of the beauty and resilience of the human spirit. Dr. Matthews, who had observed the interaction with professional interest, noted how Catherine's genuine engagement had affected not just Emma, but everyone in the room. The nurses were standing taller, Janet seemed more relaxed than she had in weeks, and Emma was practically glowing with excitement and confidence. As they approached Marcus Johnson's room, Catherine could hear the sound of quiet conversation punctuated by occasional laughter. Through the partially open door, she could see a young boy with a superhero bandana showing his latest painting to his father. This next interaction would require a different approach, she realized, as every child was unique and deserved to be met where they were, emotionally and developmentally. Catherine paused for a moment to center herself, understanding that Marcus might be dealing with different fears and challenges than Emma had been. The art therapy session he was involved in suggested he was using creativity to process his experiences, much as Emma had done, but his cancer journey would present its own unique set of physical and emotional hurdles. The Royal Protection Officers maintained their discreet presence, but Catherine had long since forgotten about protocol and security arrangements. Her entire focus was on the children she was meeting, and the families who were supporting them through some of the most difficult experiences imaginable. Each interaction was teaching her something new about resilience, hope, and the power of human connection to provide comfort in dark times. As Dr. Matthews prepared to introduce her to Marcus and his family, Catherine found herself looking forward to learning about this young artist's perspective and creative expression. She understood that these visits were as meaningful to her as they were to the families she met, each encounter enriching her understanding of courage and reminding her of the important work being done within these hospital walls. Marcus Johnson looked up from his easel as Catherine entered the art therapy room, his eyes bright with curiosity despite the fatigue that came with his intensive treatment schedule. The 10-year-old had been working on a vibrant painting of a city skyline, complete with flying superheroes weaving between the buildings. His colorful bandana featuring Batman and Superman seemed to reflect his own superhero spirit as he faced his battle with leukemia. "That's incredible artwork, Marcus," Catherine said, approaching his easel with genuine admiration. "Tell me about these superheroes. Are they protecting the city?" Marcus's face brightened as he launched into an elaborate explanation of his painting. Each superhero had a specific role and backstory that he had developed during his many art therapy sessions. The detail and complexity of his narrative revealed an imagination that had found creative outlets during long hospital stays and treatment periods. "This one here," Marcus pointed to a figure in a red cape, "is Captain Courage. He helps kids who are scared of medical procedures. And this one in blue helps families stay strong when things get really hard." The maturity in his 10-year-old observations about fear and family strength struck Catherine deeply. David Johnson watched his son explain his artwork to the Duchess with a mixture of pride and amazement. Over the past 8 months, he had watched Marcus transform from a carefree child into someone who possessed wisdom far beyond his years. The cancer diagnosis had initially devastated their family, but Marcus's resilience and positive attitude had become a source of strength for everyone around him. Catherine pulled up a stool beside Marcus's easel, positioning herself at his eye level. "Would you teach me how to paint superheroes?" she asked, accepting a brush from the art therapist who had been working with Marcus before her arrival. "I'm not very good at art, but I'd love to learn from an expert like you." The role reversal delighted Marcus, who immediately took on the responsibility of art instructor with enthusiasm. He guided Catherine through the process of sketching a simple superhero figure, offering encouragement and gentle corrections as she worked. His natural teaching ability and patient explanations revealed yet another facet of his remarkable character. As they painted together, Marcus shared more about his treatment experience. He spoke matter-of-factly about chemotherapy, hospital stays, and the side effects he endured, but his focus remained on the positive aspects of his journey. He talked about the friends he had made in the oncology ward, the nurses who made him laugh during difficult procedures, and the art therapy sessions that had become the highlight of his week. "The hardest part isn't the medicine or being sick," Marcus confided as he helped Catherine add details to her superhero's cape. "It's when I see my mum and dad crying when they think I'm asleep. I want them to know that I'm okay, that we're going to beat this thing together."
David felt his throat tighten as he heard his son's words.
Marcus had never expressed this concern directly to his parents, and hearing it now helped David understand how perceptive and caring his child had remained despite his own struggles. Catherine caught David's emotional response and naturally included him in their artistic collaboration. "Your dad looks like he might be worried about getting paint on his clothes," Catherine observed with a gentle smile. "Should we convince him to join our superhero art project?" This light-hearted invitation broke the emotional tension and drew David into the creative process. Soon, all three were working together on the painting, with Marcus directing their efforts like a seasoned art director. The collaboration created a moment of normalcy and joy that felt precious in the hospital environment. Catherine learned that Marcus had missed most of the current school year due to his treatment schedule. His teachers sent work to the hospital, and he completed assignments between medical procedures, but he missed the social aspects of school life. The art therapy program had become his primary creative outlet and social interaction with peers. "Do your school friends know about your superhero paintings?" Catherine asked, studying the gallery of Marcus's artwork displayed around the room. Marcus's expression grew more serious. "Some of them are scared to talk to me now. I think they don't know what to say about the cancer." This honest observation revealed one of the hidden challenges children with serious illnesses face beyond the physical aspects of their treatment. Catherine understood this isolation and its impact on young patients. "Maybe we could create something special to share with your class," she suggested. "Something that helps them understand that you're still the same Marcus who happens to be dealing with some medical stuff." The idea energized Marcus immediately. He began planning a collaborative artwork that could be photographed and shared with his classmates, along with messages that might help them understand his experience. Catherine encouraged this project, recognizing its potential to bridge the gap between Marcus's hospital world and his life outside. The art therapist, watching this interaction, marveled at how naturally Catherine connected with Marcus's emotional needs beyond the immediate medical situation. The Duchess seemed to understand instinctively that healing involved much more than addressing physical symptoms, and that social connections played a crucial role in recovery. As they continued painting, Marcus shared his dreams for the future. He wanted to create graphic novels featuring superheroes who dealt with real-world problems, including illness, family challenges, and helping others. His cancer experience had given him ideas for stories that could help other children feel less alone when facing difficulties. "I think kids need superheroes who understand what it's like to be scared or sick," Marcus explained, adding details to a character who was clearly inspired by his own journey. "Regular superheroes are great, but sometimes you need heroes who know what a chemo port feels like, or what it's like to lose your hair." Catherine was struck by the depth of Marcus's insight and his desire to use his difficult experience to help others. She encouraged his creative ambitions and suggested that his unique perspective could indeed make a difference in other children's lives through his art and storytelling. The time spent in the art room became deeply meaningful for everyone involved. Catherine found herself learning as much from Marcus as she was giving to him. His courage, creativity, and concern for others despite his own challenges reminded her of the incredible resilience children possess and the importance of supporting their dreams even during the darkest times. When it came time to move on to other areas of the hospital, Marcus presented Catherine with a small canvas he had painted during their session. It depicted a female superhero wearing a blue dress and a crown, helping children in a hospital setting. "This is the Duchess of Kindness," he explained with a shy smile. "She helps kids feel brave and reminds them that people care about them." Catherine accepted the gift with visible emotion, understanding that this artwork represented something far more valuable than any formal state present she had ever received. Marcus had created a piece that captured the essence of what she hoped to accomplish through her charitable work and her role as a royal family member. The goodbye with Marcus and David was warm and hopeful. Catherine promised to follow Marcus's artistic journey and asked to be updated on his treatment progress. She left the art therapy room carrying not only Marcus's painting, but also a renewed understanding of how creativity and hope could flourish even in the most challenging circumstances. Walking toward the pediatric intensive care unit, Catherine reflected on the morning's experiences. Both Emma and Marcus had taught her something different about courage, resilience, and the power of maintaining hope in difficult situations. Their families had shown her the strength that emerges when loved ones face serious challenges together. Dr. Matthews, who had been observing these interactions throughout the morning, noted how Catherine's genuine engagement seemed to energize everyone around her. The staff members they encountered in the hallways stood a little straighter, smiled a little brighter, and seemed to take renewed pride in their important work. As they approached the intensive care unit, Catherine prepared herself for potentially more challenging interactions. Some of the children they would meet next might be too ill for extended conversations, and some families might be dealing with more uncertain prognosis. Each situation would require sensitivity, flexibility, and the ability to provide comfort without false reassurance. The royal protection officers continued their discreet presence, but Catherine had long since forgotten about security protocols. Her focus remained entirely on the families she was meeting, and the dedicated staff members who worked tirelessly to provide the best possible care for their young patients. The pediatric intensive care unit required a different approach, and Catherine understood this as she followed Dr. Matthews through the secured doors. The atmosphere here was more subdued, with the constant hum of life-supporting equipment creating a backdrop of technological vigilance. Families maintained bedside vigils, their faces reflecting the exhaustion and worry that came with having critically ill children. 6-year-old Lily Chen lay in a bed surrounded by monitors, recovering from a complex surgery to repair a rare neurological condition. Her parents, Ming and Wei Chen, had been at her bedside for 5 days, taking turns sleeping in the uncomfortable reclining chair provided for families. Their world had shrunk to the confines of this room, where every beep and alarm carried significant meaning. Lily was awake but groggy from medication when Catherine approached her bedside. The little girl's eyes tried to focus on this new visitor, her small hand clutching a worn, stuffed rabbit that had become her constant companion throughout her medical journey. Catherine moved slowly and spoke softly, understanding that sudden movements or loud noises could be startling for children in intensive care.
"Hello, Lily," Catherine whispered, noting the beautiful mobile of paper cranes hanging above the child's bed. "Did someone special make these beautiful birds for you?"
Lily's mother, Wei, explained that family members and friends from their community had folded hundreds of cranes, following the traditional belief that 1,000 paper cranes could grant a wish.
The mobile represented hope, love, and the collective prayers of everyone who cared about Lily's recovery. Catherine was deeply moved by this cultural tradition and the visible manifestation of community support surrounding this family. She asked Wei to tell her more about the significance of the cranes, genuinely interested in learning about traditions that provided comfort during difficult times. Ming Chen, Lily's father, had been reluctant to leave his daughter's bedside even for basic necessities. He spoke limited English but communicated through his wife, expressing gratitude for the Duchess's visit and sharing his amazement at the level of care his daughter was receiving. Catherine listened carefully to Wei's translation, making sure Ming felt included in their conversation. The language barrier didn't prevent Catherine from connecting with this family. She used gentle gestures, warm smiles, and the universal language of parental concern to communicate her respect and support. When Lily showed a slight interest in a small toy Catherine had brought, the Duchess spent several minutes engaging in simple play that required no words but conveyed genuine care and attention. Dr. Rachel Williams joined them in Lily's room, explaining some of the innovative treatments being used to address the little girl's condition. Catherine listened intently to the medical explanations, asking thoughtful questions that demonstrated her commitment to understanding the challenges these families faced. The conversation with Dr. Williams revealed the complexity of treating rare conditions in children. Research was ongoing, treatment protocols were constantly evolving, and families often faced uncertainty about long-term outcomes. Catherine gained a deeper appreciation for the courage required not only from patients and families, but also from medical professionals who dedicated their careers to pushing the boundaries of pediatric medicine. Wei Chen shared their family's journey from first noticing symptoms to receiving a diagnosis and finally arriving at this specialized treatment center. The path had been long and frightening, filled with multiple consultations, complex medical terminology, and difficult decisions about treatment options. Throughout their story, their love for Lily and determination to pursue every possible avenue for her recovery was evident. Catherine spent time admiring the cards and drawings that covered Lily's bedside table, each one representing someone who was thinking of this little girl. Some were from family members, others from Lily's preschool classmates, and several were from complete strangers who had heard about her situation through social media posts shared by the family. The power of community support was evident throughout the intensive care unit. Catherine observed how families supported each other, sharing information, offering comfort during difficult moments, and celebrating small victories together. Parents who had been through similar experiences provided guidance and hope to those just beginning their journeys. As Catherine prepared to move on to other areas of the hospital, Wei Chen asked if she would sign the prayer book they were keeping for Lily. Family members and friends had been writing messages of hope and love that Wei read to her daughter during quiet moments. Catherine carefully wrote a message expressing her admiration for Lily's strength and her family's dedication, adding her signature to the collection of heartfelt wishes. The transition from the intensive care unit to the rehabilitation ward required Catherine to adjust her energy and approach once again. Here, children who were further along in their recovery journeys were working to regain skills and abilities affected by their conditions. The atmosphere was more active, filled with the sounds of physical therapy sessions, speech therapy exercises, and occupational therapy activities. 12-year-old James Walsh was working with a physical therapist to regain mobility after a spinal injury sustained in a cycling accident. His determination was evident as he pushed himself through exercises that were clearly challenging and sometimes uncomfortable. Catherine watched his session with admiration, recognizing the mental strength required to persist through rehabilitation work. James's physiotherapist explained how his positive attitude had accelerated his recovery beyond initial expectations. The young boy had set goals for himself that seemed ambitious given his initial prognosis. But his commitment to the rehabilitation process was paying dividends in measurable improvements. Catherine asked James about his interests outside of his medical treatment, learning that he was passionate about computer programming and robotics. Despite being confined to a wheelchair during his recovery, James had continued working on coding projects using a laptop provided by the hospital's education program. The conversation revealed James's sophisticated understanding of his injury and realistic optimism about his recovery prospects. He spoke knowledgeably about his treatment plan, the milestones he needed to achieve, and his goals for returning to activities he enjoyed. His maturity and determination impressed everyone who met him. James's parents, Sarah and Michael Walsh, had struggled to balance supporting their son's recovery while maintaining some normalcy for their two other children at home. Sarah shared the challenges of coordinating care, managing multiple medical appointments, and helping their family adjust to their new reality. Catherine listened to their story with the understanding that spinal injuries affect entire families, not just patients. She asked about resources available to support siblings and extended family members, recognizing that comprehensive care needed to address the emotional and practical needs of everyone involved. The rehabilitation ward showcased the hospital's holistic approach to healing. Catherine observed music therapy sessions, art therapy programs, and educational activities designed to keep young patients engaged in learning during extended hospital stays. The staff members clearly understood that recovery involved much more than addressing physical symptoms. During her time in the rehabilitation area, Catherine met several staff members who had dedicated their careers to pediatric recovery programs. Their expertise and commitment was evident in every interaction with patients and families. She took time to thank them individually, understanding that their work often required emotional resilience as well as technical skill. The diversity of conditions and recovery journeys represented in this ward reminded Catherine of the complexity of childhood illness and injury. Each family had a unique story, different challenges, and individual hopes for the future. Yet common threads of love, determination, and hope connected all their experiences. As the afternoon progressed, Catherine found herself deeply affected by the resilience and courage she had witnessed throughout the hospital. Each child and family had taught her something different about facing adversity with grace, maintaining hope in uncertain circumstances, and finding meaning in difficult experiences. The final stop on her visit would take her to the outpatient area, where children came for ongoing treatments while living at home. This transition from inpatient to outpatient care represented hope and progress for many families, though it also brought its own set of challenges and adjustments. The outpatient clinic buzzed with a different kind of energy than the inpatient wards Catherine had visited earlier. Here, children who lived at home came for regular treatments, checkups, and ongoing monitoring of their conditions. The atmosphere felt more hopeful, representing progress in recovery journeys and successful transitions back to more normal childhood experiences. 9-year-old Aisha Patel sat in the treatment room receiving her weekly infusion, a routine she had followed for 6 months as part of her autoimmune condition management. Unlike the children Catherine had met who were in acute phases of treatment, Aisha had learned to live with her condition as part of her daily reality. She attended school, participated in modified sports activities, and had developed remarkable resilience in managing her medical needs. Catherine was immediately struck by Aisha's matter-of-fact approach to her treatment. The young girl chatted easily about school subjects, her friends, and her plans for the weekend while the IV infusion ran through her small arm. Her mother, Priya Patel, watched with the practiced eye of someone who had learned to balance normal parental worries with the additional concerns that came with managing a chronic childhood condition. "The hardest part isn't the medical stuff," Aisha explained to Catherine with startling honesty. "It's when people treat me like I'm made of glass. I can still do most things, just sometimes a little differently." Her insight into how others perceived her condition revealed a wisdom that impressed everyone in the room. Catherine asked Aisha about her strategies for helping friends and teachers understand her needs without being overprotective. The 9-year-old had clearly given this considerable thought, developing age-appropriate explanations for her condition and advocating for herself in various social and academic situations. Priya shared the family's journey from initial diagnosis to finding the right treatment protocol and learning to integrate medical management into their daily routine. The transition from crisis-focused care to chronic condition management had required its own set of adjustments and coping strategies. The conversation revealed how childhood chronic illness affected not just patients and immediate families, but entire communities. Aisha's school had worked with medical professionals to accommodate her needs. Her soccer team had modified activities to include her, and her extended family had educated themselves about her condition to provide appropriate support. Catherine learned about the hospital's comprehensive approach to chronic condition management, which included medical treatment, psychological support, educational advocacy, and family counseling. Dr. Matthews explained how successful long-term outcomes often depended as much on psychosocial support as on medical intervention. As they talked, other families in the outpatient area began to gather around, drawn by the unusual presence of the Duchess, but staying because of the meaningful conversations taking place. Catherine found herself surrounded by children and parents who had important stories to share about their experiences with childhood illness and recovery. 15-year-old Tom Bradley had been coming to the hospital for treatment of a rare genetic condition since he was 7 years old. Now approaching his transition to adult medical care, he offered a perspective on growing up with chronic illness that fascinated Catherine. Tom had learned to balance normal teenage concerns about academics, friendships, and future plans, with the additional complexity of ongoing medical management. Tom's insights into the emotional aspects of chronic childhood illness were particularly valuable. He spoke about the importance of maintaining independence while accepting necessary support, the challenge of forming friendships when medical appointments interfered with social activities, and his determination to pursue goals that might require creative adaptations but were still achievable. Catherine was impressed by Tom's maturity and his ability to articulate complex feelings about his medical journey. His perspective reminded her that successful pediatric care needed to evolve with patients as they grew and developed, addressing changing needs and goals throughout childhood and into adolescence. The gathering in the outpatient area had become an impromptu support group, with families sharing experiences, offering advice, and celebrating each other's progress. Catherine observed how these connections between families created a community of understanding that provided emotional support beyond what medical professionals could offer. Dr. Pryatt and Edward Bennett said to Christopher Caffer. Sarah Chen, who managed the outpatient program, explained how peer support had become a crucial component of their treatment approach. Families who had successfully navigated certain challenges often became informal mentors for others facing similar situations, creating networks of practical and emotional support. Catherine spent time talking with parents about the unique challenges of managing childhood illness while trying to maintain normal family life. She heard about financial pressures from medical expenses and lost work time, the stress on marriages and sibling relationships, and the constant balancing act between appropriate caution and allowing children normal developmental experiences. The stories she heard reinforced her understanding that childhood illness was never just about the patient, but affected entire family systems. Successful treatment programs needed to address the needs of parents, siblings, and extended family members who all played roles in supporting recovery and ongoing management. As the afternoon drew to a close, Catherine reflected on the remarkable day she had experienced. Each area of the hospital had revealed different aspects of childhood illness and recovery, from acute crisis management to long-term rehabilitation and chronic condition management. The diversity of experiences had broadened her understanding of the complexity and importance of comprehensive pediatric care. The children she had met throughout the day had taught her lessons about resilience, hope, and the power of human connection that would stay with her long after the visit ended. Emma's artistic expression of her dreams, Marcus's superhero wisdom, Lily's quiet courage, James's determined rehabilitation work, Aisha's practical advocacy, and Tom's mature perspective on growing up with chronic illness had all contributed to her evolving understanding of childhood illness and recovery. More importantly, Catherine had witnessed the incredible dedication of the medical professionals, support staff, and family members who worked tirelessly to provide not just medical treatment, but comprehensive care that addressed the emotional, social, and developmental needs of children facing health challenges. As she prepared to leave the hospital, Catherine made commitments to maintain connections with several of the families she had met. She planned to follow up on Emma's artistic development, Marcus's treatment progress, and the various advocacy initiatives that had emerged from her conversations with patients and families. The experience had reinforced her commitment to supporting childhood health initiatives through her charitable work. She understood more clearly how her platform could be used to raise awareness about the needs of children with serious illnesses and to advocate for comprehensive care approaches that addressed not just medical needs, but the full range of factors that affected recovery and long-term outcomes. Catherine's final stop was a brief meeting with the hospital administration, where she expressed her gratitude for the opportunity to spend meaningful time with patients and families. She discussed potential ways to support the hospital's work and explored opportunities for ongoing collaboration between her charitable initiatives and their patient care programs. The drive back to Kensington Palace gave Catherine time to process the emotional impact of the day's experiences. She carried with her not only the artwork and small gifts the children had given her, but also a renewed sense of purpose and deeper understanding of the important work being done in children's hospitals across the country. The Duchess arrived home with a full heart and a clear vision of how she wanted to use her platform to support children's health initiatives. The day had reminded her that beyond the formal aspects of royal duty lay opportunities for genuine human connection and meaningful impact on the lives of families facing some of their greatest challenges. That evening, as Catherine shared stories from her hospital visit with her own children, she found herself thinking about the incredible courage and resilience she had witnessed. The young patients at Evelina Children's Hospital had shown her that healing involved much more than medical intervention, and that hope, creativity, and human connection were powerful forces in recovery and resilience. The impact of her visit would ripple outward in ways she might never fully know, touching not only the family she had met, but also the staff members who had been reminded of the importance and meaning of their work, and the broader community that would hear these stories and be inspired by the courage and hope they represented. In the days that followed, Catherine would receive drawings from Emma, updates on Marcus's treatment progress, and thank you notes from families expressing how much her visit had meant to them. Each communication would reinforce her understanding that sometimes the most powerful royal duties were the simplest ones, showing up, paying attention, and reminding people that their struggles and their courage mattered to someone beyond their immediate circle of care. The visit to Evelina Children's Hospital had accomplished something far more significant than a ceremonial royal engagement. It had created moments of genuine human connection that reminded everyone involved of the power of compassion, the importance of hope, and the remarkable resilience of children and families facing life's greatest challenges.